It's Ron Reader digs the universe. I'm Ron Reader, and this is Ron Reader Digs the Universe, and tonight, the Department of War. When we were kids in the mid-1970s, my younger brother noticed our dad's ID card for the National Guard had Department of Defense written on it. He then innocently asked if we also had a Department of Offense, and the whole family got a good laugh. You know, football, defense, offense. Of course, the irony here is that the Department of Defense, for most of the history of this country, had a name that wasn't too far afield from a Department of Offense. The U.S. Department of War was established in the late 1700s because that's what European countries did. It was simply understood that modern governments must have some sort of a branch devoted to organizing and administering the military. And because European nations were at war with each other like constantly, always, all the time, you'd be crazy not to have a war department. So that's what we called it all the way up through World War II, and that name lived on for a long time after it was changed as a familiar phrase in the gigantic pop culture World War II nostalgia machine, like in the old Wonder Woman TV show where her secret identity, Diana Prince, worked in the War Department, speaking of the 1970s. But change the name we did in the late 1940s as part of an overall post-war restructuring of the various military departments and cabinet positions in order to create a smoother, more responsive system. And that's when the Department of War, which oversaw the Army and the Air Force, combined with the Department of the Navy to become the Department of Defense. I think it's likely that the new name also reflected the American worldview at the time. The war crimes trial for Nazis in Nuremberg had only recently established that waging aggressive war was the worst of all war crimes because it enables all the war crimes that follow. Everybody knew that, and nobody wanted us to be like the Nazis who waged aggressive war, thus the word defense instead of war. But the Iron Curtain had just fallen over Eastern Europe, and we had literally become defenders of the non-Soviet world too. We wanted to project a good guy image with this Department of Defense. I mean, I know this was always something of a sinister euphemism. You know, Vietnam, Iraq, Panama, elsewhere, we've been very warlike since the name change. But it's who we've long thought we are, perhaps even who we've been trying to be. Defenders, not warriors. Not with Trump, though. If the name Department of Defense has been a national aspiration for decades, well, MAGA's done with that. It's back to being the Department of War. Again, in theory, the name change requires congressional approval, but when did that ever stop Trump? They're already changing all the stationery. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, tells us that it's about restoring, not renaming, because we will now be on offense, not defense. Warriors, not defenders. And it's like, what the fuck does that even mean? Without straight answers from the administration, we've got to speculate, which isn't too difficult because we can see the meaning of warriors, not defenders, all over the place. It means threatening to invade friends like Canada In Denmark, it means blowing up fishing boats off the coast of Venezuela. It means invading LA. It means invading DC. It means amassing troops outside Chicago. It means destroying alliances with peaceful democracies and cozying up to dictators who wage aggressive war. Warriors, not defenders, means we're the bad guys. And MAGA is now shamelessly proclaiming it to the world. I'm Ron Reeder, and this has been Ron Reeder Digs the Universe. Join me, Ron Reeder, again next week for another episode of Ron Reeder Digs the Universe.